Okay, so I don't know what you got for Christmas. But here's what I know. I know that every kid out there hates getting socks. Come on now. I mean, there's not a person in this room when you grew up and you opened the gift and there were socks or underwear where you went, oh goody, Santa Claus found me. We don't do that because we hate, as a kid, getting underwear or socks for Christmas because we honestly feel like the socks and the underwear take away from the really important gifts that are still under the tree, right? Now, as an adult, I kind of like getting underwear and socks for Christmas. Because as an adult, I realize that I enjoy a little new fabric in my private places. You know. But as a kid, but see, here's the deal. And it's not because the kids are bad, it's because they're young. From their perspective, very limited perspective, it's all about what's under the tree. Come on, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's all about what's under the tree. Aren't they the ones that prowl the Christmas tree? You know what I mean by prowl the Christmas tree? They're shakers, lookers, unwrappers. Yeah? Aren't they the ones that try to negotiate the Christmas schedule? Right? Come on. Please. Aren't they the ones? And again, it's not because they're bad, it's just because they're young. That's that limited perspective. And so the broader perspective is really what changed my mind about the sock and underwear. Because here's what I realized. It's not about what's under the tree, it's about the people that are around the tree and why the tree is there. It's all about perspective. And so here, as we're finishing up 2018, can you believe it? Another year gone. As we're finishing up 2018, we're getting ready to celebrate the new year. And I just want to caution you, as you're celebrating the new year, I want you to demonstrate choices to your children that you can be proud of and that don't jack them up. Okay? And there's other people that are trying to walk in your footsteps that might trip over you if you stumble and fall. Okay, so just think about that. So anyway, so it's wise for us not only to look forward to the life that is coming our direction, but it's also wise for us to be able to look back at the lessons that we learned along the way. That's wisdom. Okay, and so here's what Edmund Burke said. Edmund Burke said, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I just wonder, are there any people out here that you've learned the same lesson a couple of times? Come on, you're just like, why does this keep happening? Because you're still just as dumb. That's why it happens, right? And so if we don't learn from history, so here's the Apostle Paul's view on this, and he tells the people living in Philippi. It's in Philippians chapter 3 and verse 13. Here's his view on this. He says, brothers, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do. Everybody do this. Come on. Yeah, watch. Come on. Oh, there you go. One thing I do. Remember the movie City Slickers? Anybody watch it? The old dudes, one thing, So it's just one thing. He said the one. So here's what he's saying. And it's not that it's just he only does one thing, but here's what he's saying. I want to make sure I do the most important thing. So the most important thing is forgetting what is behind me and straining. Isn't that a great word? Straining towards what is ahead. I know people that say, well, I just, whatever happens, happens. Come on, you lazy bum. Put some work in it. Hey, whatever happens, it must be God's will. No, it's just because you're lazy. It just works that way, right? So straining towards what is ahead. Verse 14, I press on towards the goal to win. I love that. I press on towards the goal to win. Everybody say win. There's nobody in this room that says, my goal is I plan on doing a real firm 10th place. Nobody does that. We want to win. So here's what he says. I press towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. So here's the deal. If we don't push past the past, we will never fully embrace our future. And that's really important. Okay, so, and just to make this simple, the tree doesn't abandon the dirt. What it does is it rises above it. So that's what you do with these lessons. Okay, so he also encourages, he tells us to strain forward, he tells us to press on, but he also encourages us to forget what's behind. Not that it doesn't have any value, but here's what's important. We can't relive the days we've already lived. We can't relive those days. So what do is we learn from those days. That make sense? Okay? We learn from those days. So we don't ignore it, but we learn from it while moving past it, right? So this is the deal. So 2018, I thought about kind of reviewing a whole bunch of stuff, but then I thought, there's been a lot of stuff. There's been a lot of stuff. So we've done some laughing, we've done some crying, we've had some gains, we've had some losses. We've done some hurting, we've done some healing. I know personally, I've been through just some crazy stuff this year. Crazy stuff. So there's been babies born, there's been homes moved into, there's been educational goals met, there's businesses that have blossomed, there's been weddings, and there's been family reunions and restoration, and there's been rehab system, really good stuff. But also, we've lost some loved ones. We've had some people we care about move away. Some have struggled with education. We've had some businesses close. Been divorce, family separation, and even relapse. So here's what happens. In a crowd like this, all of this has happened amongst all of us. We've had good days, we've had bad days. We've had some things go really, really well, and some things go, oh my God. We've been there. Okay, so here's the deal. So we can't relive any of those days, good or bad. It can't happen. Okay, it's just life. Matter of fact, Jesus said it this way in Matthew chapter 5, verse 45. He says, look, the sun comes up on the good people and bad people both. When it rains on the good people and the bad people. It's just life. It just happens that way, right? So the question that we ask ourselves about what we've been through, okay, is did we get better or did it simply make us bitter? Because stuff happens, right? Or to put it another way, this is where I really want to go with this today. Did we do any learning this year? Did we learn anything? People, I learned some stuff. I learned not to trust people. You learned the wrong lesson. I've learned that people suck. Well, you learned the wrong lesson. I've learned that I can't win. You've learned the wrong lesson. So did we do any learning this year? So here's the deal. Now watch this. If I have $10, how many of those belong to God? All of them. Of course, He wants you to return the one. And it's not just your dollars, but it's your time, your talent, and your treasure. So what He's saying is He wants everything in our life to be able to honor Him. So what we do is we take those lessons from the past, and we embrace those lessons, we learn from that, we move forward. We try to make that life a little bit better, right? So today, here's the deal. I want to challenge you not to review 2018, but to reflect on 2018. To review means that you want to review it. Take another look at it. So the review is a desire for a redo. The reflection is a desire to be made new. Big difference. See, the review can hold us captive to the past, but the reflection can teach us the things that we've experienced, where we can take those lessons into our... So in the review, the story never changes, and the one telling the story never does either. So when we continually try to relive where we've been, then why do we wonder why nothing changes? Right? Okay, so it's only when we reflect that we can see the real us. You can't lie to the mirror. You can't look in the mirror and say, you good-looking dude. You can't do that. The mirror looks back and says, I don't know who you're talking to. You're not talking to me, right? See, you can't lie because it's an honest reflection. Matter of fact, I thought about this. This is hilarious. You ever have somebody hand you a business card and there's a picture of them on the business card that you know is at least 20 years old? You know what I'm talking about? Here's my card. You go, that ain't you. I mean, there's hair and everything. There's no way, right? But see, when we reflect, it gives us an honest evaluation of what it really is that we're seeing. It gives us a good idea of who we really are, right? So when we reflect, that's what it is. So reflecting in 2018, that's seeing real me. That leads us to, I want you to ask yourself 4 questions about the season that you've come through. Ask yourself, and you're the only one that knows the answers. Say, what if I fail this test? It's impossible to fail at being you. It's impossible, right? So the 4 questions you ask yourself, number 1, what did 2018 realistically look like? Realistically. Was it good or bad? Was there a lot of joy or sadness? Was it just some of it or was it just all of it? You say, man, it was just a horrible year and that was just 1 month. Come on, there's 11 others, right? And I just went through so much terrible stuff. It was just a couple weeks. Say, man, it was the best year ever. Why? Because you went to the beach for a week, 1 week? See, realistically, what did it look like? Because sometimes we can see it as not as bad as it really was, or not, and what happens is when we don't see it realistically, there's no way we can learn the lessons from it. It's impossible. It's like trying to take a test in school and you've never opened the book. I'm just going to guess at it. You know what we call that? An F. Right? Okay, so question number one, what does it realistically look like? Question number two, what changed in 2018? What honestly changed? Did you change? Did people around you change? Did your atmosphere change? Your career change? Did your attitude change? Did your heart change? What honestly changed? Because when you do that, you say, you know what? I'm going to take those changes, and I realize this is what caused those changes. Here's how this works, and here's how I roll with that. So you learn this stuff. Question number three, what didn't change? Sometimes we have things that we say are values, but when we come up against parts of life, those values don't work. It's like, well, that didn't work. So sometimes that stuff changes. Okay? It's the stuff that's solid in our life, those real values, they don't change. So that's how we know. It's like, you know what? These are really parts of my character. Matter of fact, and there's also areas in our life, the reason that some things don't change is because we just have stubborn parts of our life. Anybody have stubborn parts of your life? When I talk about just being stubborn, that's a different conversation. I mean, there's stuff in your life that's like, man, I can't get this, okay? So here's the lesson you learn. It's like, you know what? I need to change the way that I work on that. That's the lesson learned. And the last question, the most important question. Did we do any learning? Did we do any learning? Matter of fact, anytime people talk to me, especially young men, they tell me what's going on, and I pretty much every single time I will ask them this question. What did you learn? Now, admittedly, most of the time they give me just lame answers. Matter of fact, one guy, he got arrested. And I was talking to him afterwards, and I said, what did you learn? He said, I got to find a better hiding spot. Where's your mama? You know, but anyway, so really, what did you learn? And see, what happens when we get all wrapped up in the past, we can't get past the past. We get stuck in it, right? And so we miss out on the lessons that are able to move us forward. That's back to Philippians chapter 3, verse 13. This one thing I do, forgetting those things that are behind, letting go of the past, and I press on towards the prize so I can win. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of being second place. I'm tired of not getting there. I want to move. So in order to do that, I have to let go of what's back there, take these lessons, not take the experience, but take the lessons and use these lessons as weapons in the new warfare that I'm going to in my brand new season. So that's why I'm trying to help you today, right? So here's what's dangerous for those people that are trying to follow Christ. It's not the stuff that leads you astray. What messes up the people that are trying to follow Christ is the stuff that pulls you back through those closed doors. That's the danger. It's the stuff that pulls you back. Now there's to me, a funny story. I know I have a twisted sense of humor, but I still think it's funny. Okay, so in John chapter 21, and Simon Peter, he's a guy that talks a lot and thinks a little. Come on, any friends in the house, right? Anybody ever talk before you think? Come on, help me out, come on. I'll point you out, I will, I'll do it, right? He just blurs stuff out, and you can imagine the people around him, every time he says something, they go, oh. He's just that kind of a guy, right? And so when Jesus finds this guy, he's a fisherman. That's his business. And his brother's in business with him. And so among the 12 disciples, 4 of those guys are fishermen. 4, okay? So Jesus said, follow me, I'll make you fishers of men, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. So now, in John chapter 21, Jesus has been arrested. He's been crucified. He's been buried. The jig is up. It's all over. Now what are you going to do? So we pick this up in John chapter 21, verse 2. Simon Peter, talks a lot, thinks a little, Simon Peter. Thomas, called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, and the sons of Zebedee, James and John, and 2 other of his disciples were together. Okay? That's 7 out of 11. Okay? See, I thought there was 12. One, Judas, he killed himself. So there's 11. So 7 out of 11. In fact, Simon Peter's brother's not even there. And so there's 3 fishermen and 4 other guys. Everybody say other guys. Okay? So here's what Simon Peter says. Verse 3. Simon Peter said to them, I'm going fishing. Okay. Or in other words, I'm going back. I'm going back to who I used to be. I'm going back to what I was. I'm going back to what I used to do. Come on now, I know I'm talking to somebody. When it doesn't work out the way that we want it to, that's a temptation to go back. Now watch this. That's not what's surprising. Here's what. And they said to him, we are going with you. Never fished before in their life. Never. So we are going with you, okay? And it goes on. It says, and they went out immediately, got into the boat, and that night they caught nothing. Zero. Nada. Zip. Zilch. I can keep going. Have you ever had your efforts produce zero? Have you ever given something your best and had nothing happen? Have you ever tried and tried and tried and you didn't get anywhere? This is what's going on, and they've got to be exasperated. I don't understand what's going on, right? So watch this, okay? Now, here's the deal. Fishing is not a sin. Oh, hallelujah, right? Now, you've been in trouble. But not doing what you're supposed to do is a sin. Like Samson. Samson had a girlfriend. Delilah doesn't even say she was a bad girl. She gets a bad reputation just because of what happened. She wasn't a bad girl. She was a greedy girl. So with his head laying in his girlfriend's lap, most people don't go to hell for that. Unless you're supposed to be someplace else than where you are. Okay? See, Peter fished all night and caught nothing. So here's how the review works. Here's how he wants to redo this. And here's what happens to us when our system doesn't work out. Should have caught something by now. Should have had a breakthrough by now. Should have had a husband by now. Should have had a wife by now. Should have gotten passes by now. Should have gotten in a house by now. Should have a job by now. Should have an answer by now. Still fighting last year's battles with last year's weapons won't take you into this year's battles fighting with this year's lessons. You understand what I'm talking about? You need to be able to allow yourself to let that go and move forward. Okay? Now here's the deal. If God had let Peter succeed at what he wasn't supposed to do, Peter would have never done what Peter was supposed to do. He would have been a part-timer. He would have been a world changer on the side in my spare time. So what God did, because God loved Peter, God shut the door. So if you're wondering, so why isn't this working out? How come things haven't changed? Maybe, my friends, in the old season, maybe God is doing you a favor. Maybe God is shutting the door on the stuff that needs to be yesterday so he can open the door on stuff that's supposed to be here tomorrow. Does that make any sense? So we need to allow God to shut the door. So here's what I'm saying. That old stuff won't work for you anymore because you are not that person anymore. So it's not supposed to work anymore. Why? Because God, because he cares about you, will shut those doors. When Samson insisted on laying in Delilah's lap, he gave up his strength and he gave up his freedom because he wouldn't shut the door. See, when we respond with what we see and what we hear and what we feel, rather than what we've learned, we get all tangled up in the past. And it haunts our memories, steals our joy, robs us of our strength, and we get stuck. So that's why I want you to consider what you've learned. Take what you've learned. Take the lessons from the last season. Turn them into weapons for your new season. So you, my friend, can win the battles that God has in front of you right now. The purpose of last year isn't to destroy you. The purpose of last year is to train you. So you take that stuff, you take those weapons, you take them into this new season so you, once and for all, can finally win the battles that you've been struggling with maybe for a long time. I think it's our turn now, don't you? It's our turn. I want to take the right lessons from the last season and turn those lessons into weapons. Because we're fighting some big stuff. And we can't fight it with outdated weapons. We need something new. Everybody needs something new? You tired of getting beat down? But God just kind of dropped something in my spirit last night. I just really wanted to just put this out there. There's people in this house that are struggling with depression. Some of you say, you know what, I've been dealing with it all my life. I don't want it to sound trite, but you don't have to. What are you going to do? You need new weapons. I'm a simple guy. If the weapons that you've been using to fight this aren't winning, how about try some new weapons? How about taking this battle into a new place? It's our turn. But here's the deal. Some doors need to shut. They need to shut. And as long as these doors remain open, the door that God is opening will stay just out of reach. Does this make sense? And what happens, sometimes we're even blocking the door open just in case. If this doesn't work out, I got a guy inside. Step through that door. Let it close behind you. Step through the door that God has opened for you. My friends, this is your new season. This is your new season. It was cold this morning. Wasn't it cold this morning? You know how you can want to know what's really cold? You hear the wind machines going, right? You hear the wind machines this morning? See, those wind machines, they put those in the citrus groves to protect the citrus fruit. Because if the citrus freezes, it'll destroy the fruit. You guys knew that, right? So they have to keep the temperature a little bit higher. So they found that if you stir the air around it, it doesn't get quite as cold. But the dilemma of the citrus farmer, you might not realize, is he also needs the cold to drive the sugar into the fruit. So here's the dilemma. If it gets too cold, it'll freeze it. But if it doesn't get cold, it'll never be sweet. That was nasty. It's big enough. It's orange enough. It could be a lot sweeter. This was picked last week, before it got cold. If they'd have picked this orange next week, it'd be way sweeter. Because it's the cold, dark days that sweeten the fruit in us. You say, God, I don't want to do that. I totally understand that. I don't let this cup pass. I totally understand it. So there's this balance between destruction and production. But without the cold, dark days in your life, the fruit of the Spirit that God is trying to develop in you will never be as sweet as it should be. You know, years ago, they didn't have the fans, the wind machines. Years ago, they used smudge pots. Anybody ever heard of a smudge pot? Just you old people. You know, if you get offended when I say that, it's just denial, you know. So these smudge, they would light them, and they would light these fires in the groves. So when the cold came in, they had to reignite the fire. So here's the deal. When the cold is getting to your heart, it's trying to freeze out the fruit, when it's trying to mess you up, my friend, it's time to reignite the fire in you. It's time to light it back up. if the cold, dark days have extinguished your flame, my friend, today is the day as we step into a new season to reignite the fire in you. Could I get you to bow your heads and close your eyes for just a moment, please? You're sitting in this room today, and the truth is, I mean, you've been through some tough stuff. I completely get it. My friend, hang on to this. You are still here. The devil did not destroy you. He didn't take your life. He didn't rob you of your faith. You, my friend, are still here. So therefore, you have already won the battle. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the lessons from the 2018, that last season, those cold, dark days. We're going to turn those into weapons so we can fight these battles that are coming against us, and we can finally, once and for all, win this war. If you've allowed the stuff of life to extinguish the flame, the tragedies, the hardships, the struggles, it's time to reignite that flame. So today, if you feel like I've been talking to you, grief will put out your fire. Hardship will put out your fire. Disappointment will put out your fire. Depression will extinguish your flame. Today's the day to reignite that fire again. So while every head is bowed, everybody's eyes are closed here for just a moment. If you feel like I've been talking to you, just simply raise your hand real fast. The pastor is me. That's the one. I just got to get it back. Thank you. Thank you. All over this room. All over this room. I just got to get. I got to get fired back up. I just got to get back to that place. Come on now. Show me your hand. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This stuff of life can rob you of that. It can. Anybody else? You say, you know what? This is just weighing on me right now. I got to get back up. Thank you. Could y'all stand this morning, please? Now here's the weird part for me, that I really want to keep on going, but I'm not going. Some of you guys will say, go, go. You're probably not even smart enough to be here. I don't know. But I want to finish this up Wednesday, because we have a new season. And God is taking a new you and inserting you into a new season. Why? Because God needs champions. Any champions in the house? Listen. Being a champion has nothing to do with whether or not you won any battles. Being a champion has everything to do with whether you've learned the lessons. I'd much rather take someone into battle that has lost a few, that has a few scars, than someone that's never had to fight at all. I know that they don't do it anymore, but when I was in school, we had playground confrontations. Good way to say it? And so you'd want to take a couple friends with you, back up, right? Anybody ever had that friend that had never ever fought in his life and he wanted to help? Hey, shut up, get out of here. You got to get beat up at least once to help me, right? If you've never been beat up, I don't think you can help me. See, here's the deal. We're going to take the lessons from your last season. You'll learn something. You'll learn something. You learn you're stronger than what you thought you were. You learn that you can come back from what you thought was going to destroy you. You learn that you can survive almost anything. You learn that you can hold things together even when you think you're falling apart. You learn some stuff. You're going to take that and turn it into weapons so you can win the battle in 2019, right? So you're here today. We want to pray with you. Boy, do we want to pray with you. Because here's what we believe. When we come together in prayer, it adds power. It adds power. The dark days are not going to destroy you. The devil doesn't even realize what he's stirred up. It's on now, right? Turn to somebody, tell them it's on now, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to close in prayer. I want you, if you need to add strength, that's why our prayer partners are here. But we want you to go into 2019 feeling like you charge hell with a water pistol. It's like, rah, let's do this, right? Okay? Let's pray.